There's something that's been sticking in my craw for all these
Get it
years.
out. Get it out. Get it out.
Yes. I'm not going to cry. But no,
Well, hello, Ardenites everywhere. Welcome to another edition of the Hot Seat. We are less than 100 days away from the greatest Ardenne reunion ever of alumni from all over the world. We're going to put Atlanta on the map between July 19 and 21 as we gather for this great reunion and the launch of the Atlanta chapter of the Ardenne Alumni. It will be an extraordinary time, and talking about extraordinary time, we have an extraordinary Ardenne alumnus from the great golden years of Ardenne. I'm being very biased here. But we have with us Devon Pele Harris, Captain Devon Harris. So many things. Welcome, Devon. It's good to have you in the hot seat.
Hey, Mark, it's great to be in the hot seat. It's an honor, and it's really a pleasure, seeing you and speaking to you. It's been, way too long, but I'm honored to be here.
Excellent. So let's start with something I've always wanted to ask. I don't think I ever asked you, but I've asked others who, and depending on who I ask, I get different. Pele. Now, I don't recall you as being any great football star. I don't even think you could make even the Colts team. Where did this name Pele come from?
Yeah, good question. So I actually could play now. I could twirl the ball, as they say. So I got the name in primary school. We had PE one day. And I don't know, I just think the soccer gods touched me that day, Mark, and nobody could get the ball. And there were some older boys there, and some of them were calling me Pele, some were calling me Blacker. And then they put the name together, Black Pele. So I get to Ardenne, first day of PE, I took the ball from the teacher, threw it up in the air, control it, and put a move on everybody, and declared that they used to call me Black Pele in primary school. And I guess throughout the class, because we played football that day, I proved, why I was called Black Pele. And one person go, but Pele no black. So they dropped the black and called me Pele. So at Ardenne, I really wanted to play football. I went out for the Colts team in first form, but back then, to be on the Colts team, you need to have your own football boots. And I used to play barefoot. I never even had track shoes. And so I couldn't try out for the Colts team. To this day, I've never owned a pair of football boots. And so that's how I ended up running track, because you could run barefoot. So,
but Pele stuck, eh?
Pele stuck, yeah. Pele stuck because I guess I proved my mettle in PE class, but I just never made it onto the school team.
But you were very good at track athletics, particularly the long distance running.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. First form, sports day, I won nothing. I finally got a certificate. I was in Phelps House, yes, when I was in first form. But you notice the purple? You see, I'm representing, yeah. So but after first form, they kicked some of us. They created Mills and Coin, and so they had to find people from the existing houses. So I was sent from Phelps to Mills. But so in first form, I got a certificate in a relay 4x1 only because somebody got disqualified. In second form, I ran the 800 meters and I won it.
Is that the race there?
No, this is actually my very last 800-meter race. I was in sixth form at the time. And dare I say, I think it's the closest 800-meter race I've ever won in Ardenne. Because that year I did not train. I didn't train when I was in sixth form. Because I was so determined not to run. But sports day came and I couldn't resist. So I ran and, of course, that was the result. So yeah, I ran my 800 race won it in second form, and in third form I went out for the track team. And the coach says, "So what are you running?" And I'm like, 800. And he goes, "Okay, you'll run 1500 meters as well." I've never heard of it, but I'm like, okay, sure. So that's how that journey got started.
You ran a champs, didn't you?
I did run a champs. Wow. It's third form, man. I ran at the Gibson Relays and I ran at Boys Champs. And those races for me were hard. I trained as hard as I could. Doesn't matter how hard I trained. I didn't feel like I was making any real progress. And I talk about that Gibson Relay 4x8 with Brownie, Desi, and I can't remember the other guy. I was the youngest guy on the team. I was the only class 2 athlete on the team. And I got the baton, man, and took off mark. And I heard this faint sound in the background. And it just got louder and louder and louder, and just zoom right by me. This is the short boy from JC. But I was a couple of things on that. I was really inspired by Brownie. I remember when I was in first form, I think, this guy ran on sports day and finished last in everything. I mean, so far last that the entire school cheered him on. And he trained and he ended up winning at Boys Champs. So I was inspired by that. And so that summer between third and fourth form, I trained like there was nobody's business. I remember when I came to school that September, everybody was like, "Man, you spent the whole day in the gym, whole summer in the gym." I used to run from Waterhouse to Forest Hills every single day. And and get there and go about, 3 miles uphill and back. So now that I'm thinking back on it, it was some serious distances. And so then I get to Boys Champs, and I'm kind of glad you asked this, because there are some things that have been sticking in my craw for all these years.
Get it out.
Yes. I'm not going to cry, but no, I'm feeling a little better about it. But I really owe Ardenne an apology. I mean, since then, 1981, and there's no reason, Mark, I shouldn't have won those races at Boys Champs. My goal going in was to break the record I think that was a 1500, and win the 800, and I walked away with nothing. And part of that was a downfall in the way I thought. I was determined to win gold or nothing. And in my head, if I wasn't going to win the gold, I was going to jog, because I didn't want silver, I didn't want bronze, gold or nothing. And that it served to inspire me, motivate me to train really, really hard. But it turned out to be my Achilles heel as well. So 1500, it's a heat, and I'm feeling awesome. Like I start the race, I'm like, this race is mine. And this guy step on my spikes, and out the corner of my eye, I see my spike flew across 8 lanes and ended up on the cycle track. And Einstein decides to run over there and pick up the spikes and put it on. This guy who used to run barefoot, all of a sudden can't run barefoot. And I just couldn't make it up. And that was going to be the race that I expected to break the record. Then the 800 meters I ran was doing really, really well. Somehow I convinced myself on the second lap that I was all the way back. This guy, a guy called D. Harris, the power boot from Tivoli, elbowed me. And so I slowed down and had everybody run past me, and then went on the outside. And I don't know, man, I panicked. I saw 2 guys go for it. So I started to jog 300 meters of the race, convincing myself that I was in last place. And people just kept, I'm like, whoa, there's somebody behind me, 50 meters from the tape, the last guy passed me. And so, yeah, I robbed our school of what I could have presented to them. The way I didn't represent Ardenne well. It was foolish thinking, and I apologize.
Wow. Now that you have exorcised those,
yes, I feel better now.
You feel much better. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. But of course, Ardenne was far more than just about athletics and physical.
Absolutely. Well, we had this reputation of, being a girls' school that some boys attended. I love my school. I'm really, really proud of my school. And I wanted to at least put a nail in that argument, because we didn't win all that many medals. But I knew it, and this is not just an illusion now, and I'm not deluding myself, as I say, deluding myself. I was that good. I was that good, So I was a little bit despondent. I had a torn hamstring going into boys' champs, actually.
Mm-hmm.
That really hampered my training, but I could have still won. And I just, took me 2 years to recover from that hamstring. And so I just never trained. And that's what you see in that picture of me still running, still.
I was frustrated myself. I think I'm still suffering from my torn hamstring. But earlier, you mentioned that you're from Waterhouse, which is a particular community, a tough community in Kingston.
Yep.
And you couldn't afford football boots. Your parents couldn't afford football boots.
Mm-hmm.
So you were from humble beginnings. Tell us a little bit about that.
So it would appear. Yeah. So.
So it would appear.
Yeah. So Waterhouse was really rough. I mean, we all know this because we all grew up in Jamaica, especially back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. I used to joke about the fact that when you didn't hear gunshots at night, it was time to get up and get ready for school. Impoverished, violent. But I speak all the time about the fact that where I lived on Sunrise Drive, there right off Balcom Drive near the Sandy Gully Bridge, I had a really good view of Forest Hills where I used to run. And
so that was your aspiration, your dream to live up?
I guess it's an analogy of what was possible, right? Because all of us kids on my lane would look up there and talk about all the rich people who live up there. And I just dreamt about, it's not necessarily living in Forest Hills, but doing something, getting out of there. Man, I could not wait, quite frankly, to get out of there. And so Ardenne, from the time I was in third form, Mark, all the way to sixth form, I was in school about 6 days a week. It was my haven, so it was either I was running track all the way through, or when I was in sixth form, I'm doing French festival, as you were part of that too.
Oh, yes. We're going to get there.
Yeah, or school challenge, So I spent all my time at school. I went home to sleep.
Yes, indeed. Ardenne rescued so many of us.
Yes.
Let's look at some of the images. I know, where's my sharing? Okay, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was a particular shot that I want to show. Are you seeing this one?
Yeah.
Okay. So, those blokes?
Yeah, man. So top right is Joseph Reynolds. The guy in the full khaki, that's Horace Sinclair. He was a fifth former. That's Puppy Everton McFarlane, Wonder Dog's brother, and Atticus, Anthony Atticus Williams after that. So that is the school challenge team. So I joined the school challenge team when I was in 6B, only because Ardenne had started a kind of quiz competition, house quiz competition. I'm thinking to myself, what's the best way to prepare for this? Join the quiz team. So that's the only reason why I joined. And I just kind of fell in love with it. By the way, at that time, I had intention of spending only 1 year in sixth form because I intended to join the Army. And we played the very first match against KC that year. It was the highest scoring match of the season, but we lost. And I was upset. So that's the only reason why I went to 6A, because I'm like, no, we can't go this way. I have to come back and represent my school. So end up in 6A.
Oh, okay, cool. So you were on the quiz team.
Yeah,
So
man. Mm-hmm.
the guy, eh? You did track, you experimented with football, and you excelled academically.
So all of us come from primary schools where, many of us were among the brightest, so to speak, of our class, right? And then, man, I get to Ardenne and there are some heavyweights there, Mark.
Welcome.
But I love, maybe it's a competitive nature in me, but there were just some kids that, yeah, man, you had to come correct. And so I love that kind of competition. I was never, I describe I'm obviously not a Rhodes Scholar. I did well enough. I worked hard because I wanted to compete on the field and in the classroom. And so, my fellow students definitely inspired me to work hard.
Mm. Okay, great. So here's this other photograph. What's happening here?
So that's Mrs. Bennett, Dawn Bennett, the guidance counselor. And so whenever the school challenge team had a match, we would take the day off from school and go to a teacher's home. So we spent time at Madame Dundas's home. And so that day we were at Mrs. Bennett's house studying. And I think we took a break.
Yes, I remember it well. Yes.
And we took a break and playing some music. And, back then soul music was the thing. And so I got a dance.
Yeah, this is more than a teacher's crush going on here, but we will spare you that one.
Sure, thank you.
It's happening here now.
This is graduation from 5th form. So on my right is Wallace Small, and then Philip Huxtable, and the bad man on the left there is me. This is probably the only picture I have from my 5th form graduation, come to think of it. And I didn't know at that time that I would have been back for 6th form. So the only reason I ended up in 6th form is I did not spend enough time studying math. In fact, I did not study math. I spent all my time, it was just poor time allocation, studying other subjects, especially French and geography. And so I got a grade 3 in CHC math, and I couldn't join the army with that. And I was really upset with myself. And so I wanted to repeat 5th form. They're like, no, you can't. We have too many people who need to repeat. And so I grudgingly went to 6th form. But it worked out well. It really worked out well.
And you loved French. You love the French language. You don't live in Canada. So are you bilingual?
Yeah, I speak patois and English. Yeah, man, I really love French. And I honestly did not realize how fluent I was in high school. And unfortunately, I think when we learn languages in Jamaica, I don't know if that's the case today, but certainly when we were in school, it was more to preparing us to take an exam.
Right.
But when I finally went to France in 1991, when I was bobsledding, I was shocked at how much I remembered and in my mind I'd forgotten tons, and I'd be in a room and I'd hear a word across the room, like, oh, I know that word. So I know I enjoy going to France. I get there, every now and again, and I even after all these years of not using the language, I know enough to get myself in or out of trouble. I'm not sure.
That is.
Yes.
So, here's the great picture that I remember so well.
Yeah.
This one.
So that year, 6th form was, 6A in particular was one of my favorite years at Ardenne. And so French Festival came up. 2 things about that. All the years growing up at Ardenne, I could never get what I call a substantial role in the play. And it was just befuddled me. I'm like, I'm doing well at French. Why can't I get a good role? And then finally in 6A, I was the lead role, Monsieur Harparagon, in the senior play, and I won Best Actor for that. And then we had the song, and I never really wanted to do the song, but I remember, I don't know if you came to me, but some of the younger guys would come and say, Pele, come rehearse a song.
Alele
Yep. I'm not going to try and sing it. But that was an amazing song, about a football team. By the way, it's a real team in Paris.
It is, yes. I actually went and researched it later on in life, yes.
I've met a few French journalists, and they've told me about the team. And so, we, it's similar with the football there. I was on stage, juggling a little bit and passing the ball. And of course, we won Best Song. That year, in fact, Ardenne swept both the senior and junior titles. So it was an amazing year.
So that was you there in your Pele role.
Yes.
Saint-Etienne team, Alele Vert. And let me just go through some of the pictures here, because there are some of the folks here are coming to the reunion. So this is Lorraine Mowat here on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Sophia Stamp. This is Orphea Strawn. Pauline Thomas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This works now with the athletic teams of Jamaica as a physiotherapist.
Oh, nice.
I don't remember her name. Oh gosh, she's gonna kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is one of my friends from primary school. This is Winston Wilson.
Yes, I think he's in New York these days.
Yes, man, he's a big financier in New York.
Yes.
This is Alok Jain.
Yes.
Professor Paul Brown, now at UWI. And so many other guys. Scorcher, Norman.
Colin right there is in the UK. Our friend Anthony Riley, he passed.
Yes.
Everton McFarlane beside him, he's in Connecticut, I think. So
yes. And Richard Sims also, very good friend, he passed as well.
Mm.
Man, what memories.
Yes, indeed. Awesome.
Amazing stuff. So you're now living in Canada.
No, New York.
You're in New York?
Yeah, I'm in New York.
Canada?
I never lived in Canada, just spent time there bobsledding.
Okay. So you left Ardenne, and you knew from very early that you wanted to go into the military.
Yeah, man.
What's that?
I blame my grandmother for that. So it's her fault. As I understand it, lived with my grandmother from I was about 7 months to 5 years or thereabouts in Horton, St. Elizabeth. And my grandmother was an amazing storyteller. And but the stories that I remember the most from her are the ones she told me about soldiers, and how them can jump in a gully and don't broke them foot. And it just kind of lit up my little 5-year-old imagination. And I didn't know if I could do it, but I really, really wanted to do it. And so that was when the dream of being a soldier was born. And as I grew older, I was in the cadets, not at Ardenne. I joined the cadets while I was in primary school, interestingly enough. That's another story. But while there, I discovered that you could actually enlist as an officer. Which again, a little bit more difficult, but that's what I decided I wanted to do. So all throughout Ardenne, I knew I wanted to join the Army. It was kind of interesting at the end of sixth form, and maybe because I knew from the beginning what I wanted to do, I was surprised that many of my peers had no idea what they wanted to do. But
I must confess to you, Pele, I harbored secret feelings of being in the Army, secret ambition. I wanted to be in the Army, but I wanted to go in as an officer. I didn't want to be bossed around like I was bossed around in the Cadet Corps at the Ardenne.
It's a different thing, trust me. As a young officer, you get bossed around too, but yeah, go ahead.
So I thought about it, but I learned that in order to make it into the officer corps, you had to run all the way from Papine, all the way up to Newcastle JDF camp, with loads of backpacks on your back. And back in the days at Ardenne, we used to do this annual ritual of trekking to Castleton.
Yeah.
the time I go around the corner from Papine, I was dying. So I could never do that. Did you do that run?
No, that's not true. But that's a jog, man. That's nothing.
Oh,
No, we
man.
didn't. So let me. The selection process for the officers is very different. So Delia was on last week, and her brother Dave preceded me in the JDF. So he was trained in India, and he came to Ardenne, I think, during a Thanksgiving. Prize giving. And I started chatting with him about the process, and so I kind of understood from then, maybe while I was in third form, what was needed. So of course you have to have the academic qualification, get the subjects, and that gets you through the door. I turned up at Park Camp, thinking I'm going to Newcastle. The selection process is over 3 days, and there were 33 of us who turned up. 3 of us were Ardenites. And before the morning ended, Mark, that group had whittled down to 9.
Wow.
So 9 of us went up to Newcastle. Was only Ardennite left in the group. And I heard people saying, man, they're only taking 5. So if that's true, 4 of us not making it. And we get there, we go into this lecture hall, and we do this written exam. And I remember I was so nervous when I saw the paper first. I'm like, God, if this is a paper exam, I fail. But that was the exam. I settled down, and really they're just kind of testing your reasoning ability, your ability to reason logically and express yourself in English. And then there's a speech that you have to do. It's a 1-word speech. It's an impromptu speech. And so the major came to me with this beret with a bunch of pieces of paper in it and said, number 24. They don't know your name. I think it's one of the fairest selection process in all of Jamaica. All they know about you is your number that you wear. Number 24, you're first. And my word was communism. And thank God for sixth form, honestly. It did wonders for me. So I spoke on communism, and I did well. And then there was the next morning was the assault course and a 1 mile run. And, so the assault course was rough, man. To this day, I haven't touched the very top of the rope. But what they're looking for is not necessarily the fittest guy, it's the most determined guy. So we did that, and then the beasted us all the way back up to the square, about a 1/4 mile or so. And then we went on a 1 mile run, and I killed that. Dave McDaniel, thank you, Dave, was on my backside for that. And threatening to kill me if the guy behind me catch me, and then threatening the guy behind me to kill him if he doesn't catch me. Well, you're going to have to kill him because he ain't catching me. Then we did there was a prepared speech. And my speech was prepared from the summer, and I killed that. And what we call a command task. Say, give you this task to do, and they're really testing your ability to assimilate instruction, come up with a plan quickly, disseminate that, and lead it. And so, I'm the only one who finished mine. So at the end, I was a top pick of only 3 that made it.
Wow.
And and really that was the easiest part of training.
Really? So it's a myth all this time. I could have been in the army, possibly, like you.
Oh, yeah, you just have to figure out how you're going. Look, my first day of training in Newcastle, I went there 4 weeks after the recruits had started training. It was so awful. If I had other options other than going back to Waterhouse, they'd still be looking for me.
So you made it to the army. You came in, made muster. So tell us a little bit about army life. While you tell us, I have some images here of.
Yeah, man. So, where do I start? It was my lifelong dream. It was my quickest way out of the ghettos. I couldn't wait. And I get to Newcastle, and any of our peers who serve will tell you that Newcastle was a challenge. But I finally made it to Sandhurst and came back and served. So this picture you have here, I think I'm a captain at the time. I served in the 2nd Battalion Jamaica Regiment, and this picture is taken right on, there's a balcony on the officers' mess overlooking the grounds of a park camp. And so I served all my time in 2GR, as it were, from a 2nd lieutenant until I retired as a captain in 92.
So you didn't jump in any gully and, run after
Yeah,
bad.
my granny was mistaken, I did break my ankle. Well, granted, I jumped from a plane. When I was at Sandhurst, I didn't have to do it, but I begged and begged and begged, and they made me go do parachuting, and I broke my ankle on my 2nd jump. So I've not done it since. I've learned my lesson. The worst part about that, Mark, was I broke my ankle Friday. I was supposed to be going to the French and Italian Riviera the Monday. This was 85, right? So I never made it to France until 91.
Were there any particular missions you led in Jamaica? Anything you can remember in your military?
Yeah, man. So my first operation, the first operation I planned when I came back from England. So I'm a 21-year-old, and my officer commanding OC.
You're 21-year-old commanding all of those.
Commanding 30 men. That's not so unusual.
21. That's extraordinary. You were like a 2nd lieutenant at 20.
I was a 2nd lieutenant, yeah. Yeah. So my first operation was planned to Warwicker Hills, back where all the terrorists lived, right? In modern day world, terrorism have a very different meaning.
Yes.
So I planned my operation, went up there first. This is my first time on the streets of Jamaica with a weapon, for real. Exciting. My soldiers were really impressed with my level of fitness. So you're fit, Like,
yeah, 21. You can only be fit at 20.
Well, if you know how much walking we do in England, you can't help but be fit.
Right.
They don't believe in driving anywhere.
Tell me about it.
But interesting. Didn't find a bad boy. Really was looking hard to find some. But that was my taste. But ran several operations in Waterhouse itself.
How did that feel, going back to your neighborhood as an army man, knowing the area, you maybe know some of the toughies?
Yes. So it's sobering was a word. Mindful of where I'm from and who live there, and knowing that not everybody is a crook. Wanting to find ways to encourage some of the younger ones that were growing up. Because you see, I remember clearly as a young boy waking up one morning during one of those curfews, as people call it. The proper term is cordon search. But I remember waking up one morning looking up a soldier's barrel.
Wow.
As they came in my house looking for stuff, And so I was always mindful, I was always respectful of people when I go, whether it was, Waterhouse or Tivoli or Augustown or wherever, Riverton City, for a short stint, we actually lived in Riverton City before it was Riverton City News or whatever it's called, right? And so when I see these young boys, I would, kind of put my hand on their head and rub their hair and say, you must join the army when you grow up here. That's my way of trying to encourage them that there was something better. But always mindful of course, that at any moment, and I was shot at twice, and it was never in Waterhouse, but always mindful and respectful. And there were times where, especially after 88 Gilbert, I saw in Back2 and 3 Miles and those areas where there was some looting, there's no doubt, and the cops were just going and take for people TV and them VCRs because I didn't have a receipt for it. And it angered me because I had a TV and a VCR in my room in a park camp that I'd bought that I didn't have a receipt for. And I recognized that had I been living, because that's where I'm from, in one of those neighborhoods, and these little bastards come in, they would have taken it away, right? And the underrepresented have no recourse but to let it go. So I was always very mindful and respectful of my beginnings and make sure that I treat people well.
Do you have a perspective, a philosophy on conscription, and particularly in the Jamaican context, where almost as if the youngsters are just out of control? I remember back in the day, there was such a violent opposition about, military conscription in Jamaica. Do you feel that could be a solution to some of the challenges Jamaica now faces with its young people?
I know that Lieutenant General Meade, who was my senior at Sandhurst, that's part of his vision. I welcome it with reservation because it's a Jamaican context where one of the things that give us in the JDF, and I say us because I served and I still feel a part of it. One of the things that give us the advantage over the gunmen is that they're not as trained as we are. They don't know what we know, and quite frankly, if you could take the political constraints away and unleash us, the JDF, you'd see a market difference. Let's put it that way. I believe that, given what I know. And so I am a little bit reluctant to have everybody know what we know, because you don't want to train your enemy, so to speak. So I would love to see a situation where most, if not all, young men and women are brought into some kind of military service, but not necessarily at the outset anyway, learning all the weapon training and the field craft that we know. Because
the discipline is something that we're after.
Yes. So being able to put them through kind of all the rigorous physical training and mental stresses would be a benefit for all of us, for our nation, without necessarily teaching them all of the other things that we know.
Excellent. Very insightful, Devon Pele Harris, our extraordinary Ardenne alumnus with us in the hot seat today. I'm sure you're all waiting to hear about the bobsled team, how it happened.
What's that?
We're going to take a break now, but when we come back, we're going to talk more with Devon about this extraordinary happening in his life that really took his life on another trajectory. So join us as we return just in a little bit with the second segment of our conversation with Devon Pele Harris.